Okay, let's unpack this. For our deep dive today, we've got something a little different, a really fascinating study in unexpected expertise.
Right.
We aren't pulling from a formal university press or, some
Yeah.
botanical institute.
So,
We're diving into the notes of someone who calls himself an old software plumber.
hmm.
And these are extensive notes, almost obsessive.
It's such a perfect example of this idea that true, rigorous curiosity, it transcends professional boundaries.
It really does.
We're looking at one single post, part 760 of his gardening notes.
760.
And it's all about his discovery of the banyan tree, Ficus benghalensis. So our mission today is to trace how this one simple botanical observation, it just acts as a thread.
A thread that pulls him and us into what? Global identity, local folklore.
And even a deep philosophical choice about how we choose to learn things.
Right. So we're using his meticulous documentation as a kind of shortcut for you, a way to get really informed on a topic you might never have even thought about.
And it shows that the capacity for deep, structured learning, it's the same process. It doesn't matter if you're debugging an operating system or just trying to identify a leaf.
The common thread is that observation,
Yeah.
the detailed logging.
Exactly. And what first drew him to this particular tree was just the sheer power of its look, its aesthetic.
Yeah, he wasn't worried about the technical side of things at first, how to cultivate it or anything.
No, he was just captured by the design of the banyan.
And what really hooked him was the foliage. He calls it an elegant simplicity.
Mm.
He noted that the leaves, even though they have a simple shape, were impressively large.
Yeah.
And they vary a lot in size.
Yes. And for an engineer who works on system architecture, I think that variance is probably what was so captivating. He documents that the leaves can range from a pretty small 10 centimeters
All the way up to 40 centimeters.
all the way up to 40. That's a four-fold difference on the same tree. In a system he designs, that kind of variance might be chaos.
A bug.
It would be a bug, but here, in nature, it's just this controlled, beautiful flexibility.
I found myself drawn in by that precision, He goes beyond just the size and looks at the structure, which is how any good engineer would analyze a component.
Totally.
He notes their classic ovate shape,
Yeah.
egg-like. It gives them a really clean profile.
And then he focuses on the internal blueprint, the veination. He specifically points out the 5 to 7 pairs of prominent lateral veins.
Which is such a deep level of detail.
It's not just botanical, it's architectural. He's admiring this clean, minimalist design. It's a principle we know he values from his work in, free and open source software.
Where clean, uncluttered code is everything.
Exactly. He sees that same principle right there in the natural world.
And as soon as he pins down the scientific name, Ficus benghalensis, he connects it to his local environment. He grounds the knowledge for us.
Mm-hmm.
He makes sure to note the local names. Pokok Ara, or sometimes Ara Tanduk.
And knowing those local names is so crucial. It's not just about taxonomy, it's about the cultural context.
Right. It puts it on the map.
A scientific name puts a plant in a global category, sure, but the local names, they connect it to the soil, to the people, to the stories. It's a complete way of knowing something.
And that's what makes this next part so interesting. So he's identified it. Now what? He hits this philosophical roadblock about how to proceed.
This is where it shifts from botany to the philosophy of learning. He's debating the approach. Should he just, go get a finished specimen from a nursery?
Which he calls the keeping path.
The keeping path, right. Or should he commit to the really painstaking process of growing one from scratch, from wild seeds?
The discovery path.
The discovery path.
And what's so striking to me is that this isn't just about gardening. It's about what kind of relationship he wants with the subject. The keeping path seems so much easier.
Well, the keeping path is basically like reading the final edited textbook.
Or using a pre-packaged software library.
Exactly. It's about maintenance, curation. You have control, but the learning kind of stops at the surface. It tells you the what, but not the how or the why.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me, because he admits his primary drive is the thrill of discovery.
Which is the other path.
The discovery path. It's so much harder.
It is the raw source path. It means you're gathering the wild seeds, the raw primary data, and you're dealing with all the complexity, the low germination rates, the uncertainty.
It could fail completely.
It could take years, and it will be messy. But the learning you get from struggling with the raw source code or the raw seed is just infinitely deeper. It forces you to understand the whole system.
So for anyone listening who is always seeking new knowledge, This is a universal choice, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Do you want the curated facts, or do you want that deeper understanding that only comes from wrestling with the primary sources yourself?
And that philosophical pause, that moment of debate, is what just blew his whole window open. His curiosity about a leaf launched him straight into questions of cultural weight.
That's that amazing lateral leap you see in great learners. You start small, and suddenly the rabbit hole opens onto a global stage. So, surprising fact number one that he uncovers,
Yeah.
the massive cultural importance of this exact species. The banyan tree, the one he was just admiring, it is specifically recognized as India's national tree.
Just think about that scale jump for a second. You go from looking at the veins on a 10-centimeter leaf in your garden to realizing you're looking at a symbol of heritage and shelter for over 1 billion people.
A symbol of unending life.
The banyan becomes this physical metaphor for strength, with its roots coming down from the branches to form new trunks.
That is just,
Detail.
it's huge. And that global recognition immediately makes him ask a local question. He doesn't just stop there.
No, he uses it to reflect on his own context. If this tree means so much in India, what symbol represents his local national identity?
And that search led him to our second big fact. He quickly finds and identifies the local national tree, the Malacca Teak.
Incia palumbanica.
And again, true to form, he immediately gives us the local term so we know exactly what he means. The Malacca Teak is known as Pokok Ara.
So in just a few paragraphs of gardening notes, we've gone from detailed botany to geopolitical symbolism.
Contrasting a global symbol of strength with a local symbol of cultural pride.
All because one man asked himself how he should get a sapling.
So what here is that these trees are more than just plants. They're what? Living libraries of meaning.
Right. And for you, the learner, it shows that if you apply real rigor to any small subject, the threads will always lead you to the biggest human ideas.
And we have to step back and just appreciate the source of this rigor. We keep saying he's an old software plumber, which reminds us this is a mind that is used to high-level, meticulous system documentation.
He's an engineer focused on free, Libre, and open-source software, FallSS.
This is so critical. This is not just some person who occasionally waters a plant. This is someone who builds complex systems, and then he applies that exact same discipline to everything else he learns.
His project section is just astonishing. The same intellectual muscle he uses for gardening, Part 760, he applies across the entire spectrum. He's not dabbling, he's a systematizer.
I mean, look at the difficulty of the programming languages he lists notes for. We see entries for Haskell, Go, Rust, and Elixir Erlang.
These are not simple languages.
No. These are some of the most rigorous, complex, highly structured programming environments out there. They demand incredible precision.
And then, seamlessly, he applies that same intellectual commitment to, long-term natural sciences. He has detailed notes on fish keeping,
including specific spawn logs for betta fish.
He isn't just feeding his fish, he's documenting reproductive cycles, environmental variables, genetic outcomes. That requires patience, precision, long-term data collection.
The common thread isn't the subject, it's the method. The rigor he uses to track a memory leak in a Rust program is the same rigor he uses to log the spawning of a betta fish.
It's all about structured observation of a system. It doesn't matter if the system is code or biology.
Even his self-improvement is treated as a system to be engineered.
Yes, the human-centric subjects. They're all documented with the same dedication. He's got notes on AI and typesetting.
And then personal stuff like dieting, home improvement, and even meditation. He's engineering his own life through documentation.
That synthesis is the profound takeaway here. He finds clean design, elegant structure, and the need for meticulous notes in both the physical world and the digital world.
It tells us that true knowledge seekers, they don't just stick to one subject. They export their best intellectual tools across every domain they touch.
That's the model.
So what does this all mean for you? It means a single observation. The simple look of a banyan leaf can be the thread that pulls you through history, botany, and national identity. We started with the Ficus benghalensis. We admired its impressive size range, 10 to 40 centimeters, its classic ovate shape.
And its 5 to 7 lateral veins.
Right. And we learned that this simple object is India's national tree, which immediately led us to the local contrast, the Malacca Teak, or Pokok Ara.
And most importantly, we learned that the journey of knowledge is defined by that choice. To follow the difficult, raw discovery path over the structured, guaranteed keeping path.
It's a real lesson in just embracing curiosity and documenting the process like a true system engineer.
Absolutely. And that leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over. This engineer meticulously documents everything from Haskell code to fish spawn logs. He sees his whole world as systems to be understood. So if your own personal notes were aggregated like his, if you saw the total sum of your intellectual efforts laid out, what unexpected connections would that rigorous documentation reveal? What's the link between your most technical interests, say data analysis, and your most natural interests, like gardening or even running a marathon? How does the structure of your learning define your next path of discovery? And maybe more importantly, are you brave enough to take that discovery path when you're faced with something new? Think about that until our next deep dive.